know what your sewing machine needs from you to stay in good working order? And what equipment is required for that? What machine issues can be tackled at home, and when should we call in the professionals? And, if it's of interest to you, what's the best way to become the professional? These are just some of the questions that my guest, sewing machine technician Bizz McKilligan, answers in today's episode. Bizz is also the owner of a shop called The Green Thimble that recirculates second-hand sewing equipment and fabric. She shares the long and interesting journey that she went on to arrive at that situation. So stick around a few minutes for all of that. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 15 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular Handmade Wardrobe Challenge, Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Hello, wonderful listener. How are you doing today? My week since the last episode has been full of ups and downs. My little boy has been home all week with a virus, and I really hurt my back, so I was in agony for most of the week. On the plus side, I had the real pleasure of doing some mending in real life with some lovely patrons this week, when we hosted the first 2 Check Your Thread patron mending meetups via Zoom. That was so much fun, and there'll be more of those in the future. And this week, I got to attend the London D-Stash Fabric Swap, which was organised by Olive Road London, a vintage fabric seller, and the creators of the Stash Hub app, which I've mentioned on the podcast heaps of times before. So my sustainability win this week is that I took with me over 18 metres of fabric that I was no longer excited to own. I got to see almost all of it picked up and taken away by its new owners. And I took home about 14 metres of fabric that I'm genuinely excited to sew with. I have plans for all of it, but I've made a pact with myself that any of it that I don't sew up within a year, I'm going to take back with me the next fabric swap in next January. I really want to keep that movement and momentum in my stash that I've been talking about during the Fabric Stash mini-series. Speaking of which, thanks heaps for all the great feedback about the 3 episodes which comprise the Fabric Stash mini-series. The idea of the seasonal stash organisation system has really chimed with a lot of people, and lots of you have taken that episode as the nudge that you needed to get to grips with what you already own and have a good sort out. Please remember that there's a free downloadable seasonal stash guide that you can access to help you in the process. To get it, go to the show notes of episode 119 on checkyourthread.com. You don't need to sign up to anything. I won't be gathering your email addresses. You can just download it straight away, totally free. And please do, because I messed about in Canva for way too long trying to make it look pretty. Plus, stop press. I literally just got a message from Lisa Bauer, creator and host of the Last Sewer Standing Challenge. So she's done the final tot-up of participants in the 2023 round of the challenge. Remember, there was about 265 people in the running. Lisa has shared that there were 25 people who completed the challenge, 11 in lightweight, and a whopping 14 in heavyweight. That is so incredible. So massive congratulations to everyone who participated, whether you made it to the end or not. But an extra dollop of congrats to those who did. Right, so this week, I get to say massive thanks to new patrons Hayley, Dana, Inga, Alice, Sarah, Catherine and B. They all signed up since the last episode to give monthly contributions to help the podcast keep going. And massive thanks to existing patrons, Teresa and Harad, Kristin and Catherine, for upping the amount of their support. You are all amazing and I'm so grateful. Over the last couple of weeks, I've decided to be completely honest with you all. Finances currently are such that the future of the podcast is uncertain. So thank you, lovely people, for showing that weekly Check Your Thread episodes are important to you. Right, so on to today's episode. It's time to shift our attentions away from fabric stashes for a bit and instead concern ourselves with our sewing machines. So Bizz got in touch with me after hearing episode 104, which was how to successfully shop for second-hand machines. And we had a great conversation about choosing machines and machine maintenance and repairs. So, of course, I wanted to get Bizz on the podcast to explore these topics further for us all to hear. And it also turns out that Bizz, at time of recording, had just opened up an amazing new sewing shop in Victoria in Canada. That shop recirculates sewing resources such as fabric and sewing machines and equipment, which of course is right up our rhetorical, if not literal, street. So you're going to want to hear this, and I'll wager that you're then going to want to go and oil your machine. So please take care of yourself and your loved ones and the wider global community in whatever way you are able. Oil your machine and enjoy. Hello, Bizz. Thank you so much for today. So you contacted me after I made episode 104, which was how to successfully shop for second-hand machines. And you are somebody who services and repairs sewing machines, and that you said that you thought that the advice that I gave was good. So thank you so much for that. And then we had a really interesting back and forth via email, and I thought, I have to speak to you for the podcast. So thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. So could you please tell us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
So my name is Bizz McKilligan. I am in Victoria, BC, Canada, and I repair machines mostly, but I own a sewing store for recirculated supplies. So we do have new items as well. We are like a Bernina and Juki dealer, as well as recirculated machines, but we also have recirculated fabric and other supplies, as well as like the regular notions like needles and thread and that sort of thing. I mostly spend my day hiding in the back, repairing the machines.
Brilliant. Okay. So I really can't wait to hear about how you got into like the mechanics of sewing machines, and hopefully you can give us some tips about how to maintain our own machines. But first, really, I want to know, like, how did you get into sewing, and then at what point did like this aspect of sustainability come into it for you?
Well, the sustainability probably came first, actually.
Oh, interesting.
As far as I can remember, waste has always bothered me. Right, even as like a little kid, I would save all the ribbons and stuff from presents. And like, I remember my mom was telling me a story about how we had a friend over, and I was like, "Do you want to play arts and crafts?" And they're like, "Sure." And so I went and grabbed this box of like toilet paper rolls and old ribbon and stuff. And they're like, "Why are you playing with garbage?" I'm like, "It's not garbage." So like, as long as I can, since I was really little, I've always like, nothing is wasted. You just always, right. It always bothered me. So, I mean, we always had a sewing machine. And so we would do things like if we needed something mending, my mom's like, the sewing machine's over there, go play with it.
Oh, really? She was just like, go for it.
Yeah, she didn't sew herself, so we didn't really get any formal instruction. We didn't have sewing in school either, so I didn't learn in school. So I didn't actually really get into sewing until I was in my early 20s, when I was a dog groomer at the time, and dog grooming killed my wrist.
Oh.
Tendinitis really, really bad. So I couldn't crochet, which was my craft of choice at the time. And I always made blankets. And for whatever reason in my brain, the closest thing to making an Afghan-style crocheted blanket was to make a quilt.
Oh.
And so I was like, hey, all my friends, I need an idea for a quilt because I want to try this. And one of my friends was like, will you make me a quilt out of my T-shirts? And I said, sure, having never done this before. There's so many things I would have done differently, but my very first quilt was a T-shirt quilt. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
Oh, really? You were hooked?
Yeah, I was hooked immediately. And I started looking into quilting more, and I just loved the idea of making such beautiful, functional things out of the tiny little scraps of fabric. So since I couldn't groom anymore, I needed a new job, and so I decided to go work in a quilt store.
Oh.
So that's where I discovered that you're supposed to repair your machines once in a while and get them serviced, because I didn't know that. I'm pretty sure the machine that we had growing up had never been serviced the entire time. I'm not even sure we oiled it, so it was pretty bad, I'm sure. So at that point, I was like, wait a minute, it's someone's job to service machines? That's amazing. That sounds like a great idea for a job that I want to do.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Cutting fabric and stuff was, it was fun, but it wasn't like what I wanted to do forever. So I kind of put the idea out there to my boss at that store that I wanted to do that, and I got a little bit of that's kind of men's work, and a little bit of, well, we have one, so we don't really need you. And so, yeah. To be fair, there might be a little bit of cultural background differences. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, this is clearly like a dead end. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to find anything here. So I kind of was looking around for ways to get trained on how to do this, but there is nothing. The only way you can get trained is by one of the brands that make sewing machines.
Oh.
And they'll only train you if you already work at one of their companies. Like one of their dealerships.
So it's like an in-house thing.
Yeah. So it was one of those, like, how do I get a job without experience, and how do I get experience without a job?
Sure.
So I continued to cut fabric. Yeah, I'm going to continue to just be adjacent to this. And then life happened, and I wound up having to move out of Nanaimo, which is not very far from Victoria, where I live now. And I wound up going to Alberta in Edmonton, which is a day's travel away from here. And it's it's a little bit more right wing over there. And so it was a weird move, but my sister lived there at the time. So I found a job at another quilt store. And when I went there, I was like, I do eventually want to repair machines. That is my end goal here.
Oh, did you tell them that from the off?
From the very get-go, I was like, this is what I want. And they said, well, we don't have an opening, but if ever there is one, you're there, right?
Right.
Years later, one of the techs wound up retiring. So he started like cutting back his hours. And so then I got to be in the tech department for like 1 day a week for a while. And then eventually he left. And when COVID hit, we got slammed with service. So they're like, we need you in the back.
Sure.
So I'd been servicing for a little while before that, but only sort of part-time.
Yeah.
Previous to that, I was in the parts department ordering the pieces for the techs, right?
Oh, so you already kind of, that must have been interesting and useful as in and of itself, no? Like finding out what the pieces are.
Yeah. So that was like a bit of a stepping stone. And because I had said that I was interested in the tech part of it, they're like, well, let's put you in parts and ordering so that you can at least be like near them and learn more and kind of have a little bit more experience, so that if the time comes, you've got a little bit of background there.
Yeah, you're really playing the long game in this. I'm so impressed.
It took about 6 years between the time I decided I wanted to do it and the time I actually started getting trained.
Wow, that's so impressive.
Yeah.
That's like you could have done like a medical degree or something, or become an architect or something in that time. So COVID hit. Everyone wants their sewing machines repaired.
Everyone pulled their sewing machines out of the closet for the first time in 20 years.
Everyone's like, I've got to make masks.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was insane. We sold so much elastic, and right, like everybody needed elastic because they needed to make masks. And it was so funny because we'd constantly get people up at the service counter who were like, I need you to fix this, and I need you to fix this right now. And we're like, well, we have like an 8-week turnaround. We're swamped, right? And they're like, but I just started a business making masks. And we're like, you and the last 10 people in the line,
exactly.
right? Like,
literally everyone.
Literally everyone decided this was a good idea. I'm sure some people did better than others, but I found it kind of amusing from like behind the counter to just see like everyone with the same, like, I came up with this brilliant idea to make masks.
You never get to guess what, what, the one thing we all need at the moment?
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, we were so busy. And so it was great because I had no shortage of things to practice on, right? Like,
yeah.
So, and I love my job. I love that I get to make these machines last as long as possible. I love seeing the old ones that have been around for 100 years and that they're still going because they were built to last, and yeah, they're hard to kill.
Amazing. So you went from cutting quilting fabric to ordering the parts to tinkering part-time to like COVID hit, bam, you're a machine technician.
Yeah.
Wow. So from what I can tell in my part of the world at the moment, like sewing machine repairs is becoming a bit of a dying art, it feels like. So like my sewing machine repair guy, like he is just like you were saying, like swamped like so busy, but he couldn't interest any of his 3 children into like learning and being trained, being trained up to one day take over from him. So, and in the meantime, there's other sewing machine repair people in the local area who are retiring, and obviously home sewing is not dying, probably the opposite. So he's just getting busier and busier and more swamped, which is really frustrating because that makes him think, I just want to jack this in. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like it's kind of this horrible catch-22 where like young people don't seem to be that interested, or maybe the routes that many technicians would have gone down to get into it, maybe they're closed now, and yet the need is still there. Like, how does it feel from where you are? I mean, obviously that is your job, but more generally.
Okay. Well, as someone who wanted to do that and had a 6-year delay in being able to get there, even those who are interested are going to have a hard time, because where do you learn these things?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A friend of mine was in a similar situation to it sounds like that you were in previously, where she's quite mechanically minded and she was super interested in learning how to repair sewing machines, and the place that she took her machine to, she was kind of like, oh, would you show me? And the guy was super dismissive of her and was like, don't play, love, kind of thing. And it was like, this could be the continuation of your trade,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is a concern. Everybody else that I know who is a service technician is probably at least in their 50s.
Yeah.
So, like, I've got at least 20 years on anyone else that I know in the business. And I know, like you said, like, the other techs in town here are swamped, and they're all older, and they're going to want to retire. So at our store, we actually offer repair cafes.
Cool. About
once a month, I do kind of open up the store to have people come in with their machines to even just learn how to maintain them. But often it's like, there's an issue. Let's see if we can kind of locate where the issue is coming from and fix it. And if they want to tackle it themselves, I'm there to guide them. If they don't, they can leave it with me, right? Like, if it's a little bit too much for them or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I've had quite a bit of interest in that, but it has tended to be more towards the maintenance and not the repair side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like the repair people are hiding in their basements doing it for funsies.
This is so interesting, because I was thinking, like, if there is a listener out there who is finding it increasingly tricky to find a servicing and repairs person where they are, or if the person that they've found, as you say, is like completely swamped and has a really long waiting list, or they're looking to save money, is it something that we can learn to do ourselves? Like, is that genuinely an option?
It depends. The machines now are getting less repairable.
Right.
Everything is. Like, I'm a Bernina dealer, and so Bernina has trained me, even because I was working for a Bernina dealer previously.
Right.
And so I had been trained by them previously, but they're very computerized machines and very specific. So there's like gauges you need, and you need to know how to get into the electronic service program in order to test all the modules and units and stuff. So that sort of thing is difficult.
Okay.
Right? Without the official training. The older machines are much easier.
Okay. Yeah, as you say, like, sewing machines have changed so much, haven't they? Like, over like the last 50 years or so. If people are looking to get hold of a new to them machine with an eye to maintaining it themselves, like, what kind of machine would you recommend that they look for?
If you want to be able to maintain and repair the machine yourself without having to go through any other means of training and stuff, a mechanical machine. Basically a mechanical machine before 1980, like in the 80s or earlier. I mean, the new very basic mechanical machines are great with the good brands. You gotta watch, because like the basic machines that you'd find at any of the box stores are not great. They're often just like held together with the plastic outside. And so like if anything goes wrong, they're toast and they're garbage.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you know what this is making me think of? Do you know there's a supermarket chain called Lidl?
I don't know, no.
it's probably in Europe. Anyway, they have what is called the middle aisle, which is just random stuff. You know, you could get some flippers and a watering can and like a paddling pool. And then next week will be completely different. Anyway, there was a big thing where there was like, everyone was flipping out because suddenly Lidl were selling like 50 quid overlockers. And there was this big thing in the same community. Everyone was like, they're selling over, and everyone freaked out and went to get one. And I'm thinking like, that makes me think of the ones that you're just talking about. I think that if you opened it up, it'd go
yeah. So much cringe. Oh my gosh. I would not recommend buying a sewing machine or serger overlocker from a non-sewing store.
Right. Good tip.
No supermarkets. There's no one to help you, right? Nobody there knows anything about them.
Absolutely.
Including what they look like inside. And they're probably designed to be like single use, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah. And it seems like a bit of an intense appliance to be single use.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of materials and resources and energy and labour that has gone into the manufacture of those things, and to think of them as single use is terrifying.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. So if we are looking, I mean, obviously I'm not trying to do anyone out of a job. I'm just thinking in terms of what we can do to keep more machines in use. Yeah, so looking for something that is mechanical, not computerized, probably older than the 80s, and probably like a well-known brand.
Yeah. That being said, I mean, if you want a computerized machine, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But
it's going to be harder to maintain yourself, possibly, or repair.
Yes, it'll be harder to maintain yourself. But as long as you know somebody who can maintain that brand of machine, then they're lovely to work with. I have a $4,000 sewing machine, and I have a 100-year-old mechanical machine, and I love them both for different reasons.
What do you use which for then?
So most of my quilting is done on the big computerized machine because I like the features of my automatic presser foot lift, and it's really bright and there's lots of light. The switching between stitches and feet is really easy. But I like to make bags with my mechanical old machine.
Right.
Partly, it doesn't complain. Like, it doesn't know any better than to just keep going, right?
Keep going.
Yeah.
Must sew.
And the foot, because it's a straight stitch only, the foot is so narrow.
Oh,
and
yes.
so I can get around really tiny things, but also thick things. And so for bags, it's really, really handy.
Nice. I can imagine.
It's a knee drive, so like I move my knee over to run it. It's not even a foot control.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I know of like knee lift, you know, to lift up the presser foot, but I didn't know.
It's the same thing. Same thing, but instead of it lifting the foot, it runs the machine.
Oh, did that take a while to get used to?
Well, especially since my other machine has the knee lift.
Oh.
So sometimes I'll I'll go move my knee. I'll move my knee over to lift the foot, and it's like,
oh, didn't mean to say that bit.
Oh wait, wrong machine. Whoops. Yeah.
Awesome. So I totally understand that maintenance and repair are two different things. So let's just start with maintenance, because prevention is always better than cure, isn't it?
Yes.
So could you give us an idea of what tools or equipment are useful or essential for some sewing machine maintenance? Like if we're going to have a little go, it's not a computerized machine, it's something else. Mm-hmm. What do we need?
Okay, so typically, I mean, new machines don't often come with oil, but you should have oil. Older machines would have come with it, so you might even have, if you have an older machine, you might have one of those little squeeze bottles.
So at what point did machines, because I've got a machine that is a computerized one, it's not super fancy, but it is computerized, and I said to my repairs person, I was like, do I need to oil it? He's like, not really. So at what point did machines no longer need oil? When they became computerized?
Basically, so I think they started to leave out the oil in the machine box when there was a risk of over oiling, because if you could basically dip a mechanical machine in oil and it's fine, right? Like it'll be happy.
Probably be like, lovely, nom 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 nom.
Yeah, exactly. But if you over oil, even by a few drops in a computerized machine, you can cause some of the sensors of the circuit boards to stop working.
Okay.
And so they sort of went with get a regular service done more often, oil not at all or less.
Okay.
That being said, I would recommend oiling your hook if you've got a front load machine and your needle bar no matter what.
Your needle bar. What's a needle bar?
So the needle is attached to a bar that goes up and down.
Yes.
Right? That moves the needle. That bar is the needle. Yeah, the needle bar that it's attached to.
And you do that anyway, even if it's a computerized one?
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to go and do that immediately.
So what I recommend is bringing your needle as far down as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And then putting a drop of oil as high up on that bar as you can reach from the bottom.
Yeah.
And then bringing your needle back up. And then that'll bring the oil up with it.
Oh, thank you. Good tip.
There's almost every machine is going to have thread guides at the just above the needle, and then possibly one even above that attached to the actual head of the machine.
Right.
And every time the thread goes through a needle guide or a thread guide,
Yep.
it leaves off some lint. And so because lint tends to build up at that top part of the needle bar, it tends to absorb all the oil and take all that oil out. And so the hook, where the thread is actually wrapping around your hook or your bobbin case every single stitch, it's soaking up all that oil. And that top of the needle bar, where all the lint is soaking up all that oil, those are high friction, high lint areas, and they should be regularly oiled.
Okay, what if you've got a machine where the bobbin goes in to the top rather than into the front?
Okay, so that will vary a little bit machine to machine. I know Genomes, for example, have a little wick in the center of that hook ring.
Right.
Very underneath the plastic bobbin case.
Yeah.
In the very center. Some people pull it out because they think it's lint, but it's actually a felt wick to oil below.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's a good place to oil in those ones.
So you take the bobbin out and it's in there?
The bobbin case. Yeah. Take the plate off, take the bobbin case out.
But mine doesn't have a bobbin case. The bobbin just drops straight into the machine.
Ah, so when was the last time you removed your needle plate? Okay.
Not that long ago, because I think I got some thread stuck down there or something, so I had to.
Okay. So I would say every like half dozen bobbins or so, you should be taking your needle plate off.
Oh.
Yeah. Taking out all as much lint as you can possibly see, either with a vacuum or a brush.
Okay.
Don't use compressed air because that just blows the lint further into the machine.
Yep.
So you want it to come out towards you. So vacuum or a lint brush. And often lint will build up in between the feed dogs.
Right.
And if it builds up enough, it will actually prevent the feed dogs from being able to go up above the plate to feed your fabric.
Right. Okay. Dust.
Yeah, you obviously have a top load machine.
Yes.
So needle plate, bobbin case, which is the black part that your bobbin sits into.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you might find, if you've never taken that out, that you've got quite the bit of lint buildup underneath that as well.
It's quite satisfying lint, though, isn't it?
Well, it means you've used your machine, so that's good. We like that.
It's quite pleasing to get it out.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, look at that wad that I just pulled out of there.
I remember my sewing machine repair person told me a story of somebody that contacted them going, I need to get one of those felt pads that goes underneath the plate. And he was like, what are you talking about? She had so much lint, she thought it was a felted pad that was meant to be there.
Yes. So that is something common that we see. Like people come in and they're like, my machine's not feeding my fabric anymore. And it's literally because that lint has just built up so much because they've never cleaned under their needle plate that the feed dogs cannot even raise high enough to get above the plate.
Wow.
Yeah.
They've used that machine.
They've definitely used it, which is good.
Okay, so we're taking out the black thing that the bobbin sits in, giving it a big dust, and then we drop in a bit of oil in
the center, yeah. Usually, some machines they won't have that hole in the middle, but if you turn the hand wheel, you'll see where it sort of pivots on that center point.
Right.
And then you can put it sort of around that, where you see the metal rubbing on metal in the middle.
Okay, brilliant.
And that's a good place to oil as well, yeah. Because again, it's very high lint. That gets kind of the oil tends to get sucked up there.
I'm totally going to do that as soon as we finish this call. I'm feeling so naughty.
Excellent. I love it. If you have a ton of lint, I want to see a picture, okay? The trick is to make sure that you're putting your bobbin holder back in that ring.
Yes.
So that it sits nicely. So most of them have a little spring on the bottom right.
Okay.
And the bobbin holder has this little kind of nub that sticks out that rests against that spring. Often they'll have like little arrows to match up. And it's probably in your manual.
Right. Brilliant. So there is maintenance you can do yourself even if you've got a computerized machine?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So tools and equipment, we need oil.
You need oil. Your machine, no matter what, will have come with some sort of screwdriver.
Yes.
So the screwdriver is probably all you need to get your plate off. Theoretically, that's all you need. You need a lint brush or a vacuum. Probably need a lint brush anyway. They're good for getting into like little piddly areas. A screwdriver and oil.
Okay, right. Repairs. What are the most common malfunctions that you encounter?
Okay, so 95% of problems will be fixed by rethreading your machine.
I knew it! I knew it!
Yeah, so if you get a big jam up where you just get a bunch of thread all like knotted up underneath and you have cleared that all out, it's a good opportunity to take your needle plate off, clean out all the dust and give it a fresh oil. Put in a fresh needle.
Nice.
Make sure your needle's up all the way because that's another thing that we commonly see. Some people will be like, it's skipping stitches. Oh, your needle's not quite up in that needle clamp all the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference. If you can rethread it from scratch, top and bottom, fresh needle, make sure that needle's up all the way, and you're still having issues, you might actually have an issue.
Okay.
Another thing that we commonly hear about that is not even a problem at all, is just people don't know what to look for. If you've got a machine where the bobbin winder automatically stops the needle from moving,
right,
then we often get people who are like, my machine won't run and it's making a weird noise.
Oh, and the bobbin thing is clicked over.
The bobbin is moved over, so the bobbin winding's engaged.
I could just totally understand the frustration in their voices, though.
Yes. And that's one of those things where they're like, I drove all the way over here for this. And you're like, you know what? You get to take it home right now and you learn something. Like,
yeah. You won't do it again. Yeah.
Sometimes we get phone calls and I'm like, is your bobbin winder moved over? And they're like, oh, it is. And they've saved themselves a trip. But more often people come in with their machines.
Would you think that would be a good bit of advice then to phone up your repairs person before booking a full thing with them, just in case it is something that they can literally suggest like that and save everyone a load of wasted time?
Well, I would say that depends on how long it's been since its last servicing.
Right, so you should get it serviced anyway.
Yeah, I would recommend getting your machine serviced every 2 or 3 years, regardless of how much you've used it. If it's been sitting in a closet, that oil starts to get gummy and sticky. And if it's been used a lot, it starts to get dry and linty.
Right.
And as much as you've cleaned it out regularly, lint still manages to get a little farther than you can see.
Okay, so it needs some professional love anyway, so you may as well. And you might be lucky, it might just be a service rather than a complete repair as well.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If it's only been 6 months since it's been serviced, it might be worth a phone call.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so disregarding the things that like the bobbin winder is engaged or it just needs a rethread, beyond that, what are the most common malfunctions that you uncover?
Actual problems?
Actual problems.
Actual problems. Okay, so probably damage to the hook and needle plate.
Oh, okay.
So needle breaks are most commonly caused by trying to force your fabric through.
Right.
And not letting the machine do the feeding.
Okay.
And so almost every machine that comes in gets the hook and or needle plate polished up to get those needle hits smoothed out. So those can cause thread breakage, they can cause skip stitches, they can cause looping. So if you get like those little random loops on the back of your, the bottom of your, it could be that there's damage in the hook or needle plate area that is the threads getting snagged on it. That's probably almost every single service those things get. Yeah. So, but I'm not even talking about the timing of everything going out. I'm just talking about the thread snagging on those sharp edges. I do have a general piece of advice for when you're bringing your machine into your technician and trying to describe the problem.
Yeah.
Describe the symptom, not what you think the problem is.
Okay. This is good advice.
So instead of saying the timing is out, say it's skipping stitches or it's hitting something, right? Because if you say, well, the timing is out, but I don't actually know what the symptom you're getting is, then I'm going to check the timing and see, okay, the timing is fine, and I can't see any other problem with this machine. But if you say it's skipping stitches, well, I can say, oh, what are you sewing with? And they're like, I'm using jersey. Well, maybe you should use a jersey or a stretched needle, and that might solve your problem.
Right.
Right?
So, so your mind can go to all the things that could be causing the skip stitch.
The symptom,
rather
yes.
than, right. Symptom. Don't try and diagnose your own machine if you're taking it to a repair person.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can suggest like that you think it might be that, but do describe the symptom because it could be other things.
Okay, brilliant. Are there some issues that you think could be tackled yourself?
I think that if you can learn your own machine by someone who knows what they're doing, you can probably solve a lot of the problems. The problem is that there's so many different ones. The machines are very, very different.
What kind of differences do you see then?
So there's lots of different hook styles. So even a front load might be a rotating hook, and it might be an oscillating hook.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So the rotating hook does like a complete 360 every single time.
Yeah.
Whereas the oscillating hook goes part of the way and then goes backwards and then goes forward again and then goes backwards. So those are going to have different parts in the machine that would be adjusted, let's say, if the timing was out.
Okay. Yeah. Let's not do this ourselves.
So that's why I like the Repair Cafe, because I'm happy to show you things like that on your own machine. But there's no like blanket, this is going to solve everyone's problem.
Yeah,
because everyone's machine's very different.
Sure.
And there's more than one timing. So there's the timing of the feed dogs as well as the hook. If you are adjusting it in the wrong place, you can throw out the feed timing trying to adjust the hook timing.
And it could all get worse.
And then it could all get worse. I had that last week. Someone tried to fix their own machine, and their timing, they did the hook timing just fine, but they knocked the feed timing out, so it was not working because it was trying to feed while the needle was down.
Right. Okay. Now you've scared me from trying.
So if you have repair cafes in your area.
This seems like such a beautiful thing that I wish every town had. But I've never heard of somewhere that you can take specifically a sewing machine and have someone who is trained in sewing machines kind of to talk you through something. It sounds incredible. So I'm so glad that you're doing it.
Yeah, I think that repair cafes are becoming more and more common. Do you have general repair cafes?
Yes. Yeah, I think there is some pop-up events. Yeah.
And what kind of things do they repair?
Lamps. I'm sure there's other things, but yeah.
It's funny because I went to a repair cafe as like a sewist. So I was there for mending stuff.
Yeah.
But the appliance section was so much busier. And since I was a technician, I was like, well, I'm going to go over here and help these guys for a minute. And the one thing I did repair was a lamp.
There you go. See, lamps. In fact,
Lamps.
I've got... I need to get my hairdryer fixed as well. Like the whole plug blew off it recently.
Oh.
Anyway, I know it was very dramatic. I made a little hole in my carpet.
So you just need to replace like the plug that goes in the wall?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's an easy fix, and I'm sure you could do that yourself.
No.
I'm sure you could. I believe in you.
Okay, I might go on YouTube for that. Speaking of YouTube, is YouTube, is it a source of good advice, would you say, or should we steer clear?
Make sure that you are Googling your model number when you're doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure that whatever it is they're working on is the same machine with the same adjustment that you're trying to do.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a little Google or having a little YouTube search and then still deciding to take it to your professional repair person, isn't it? You could, knowledge is power. You know?
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of people wanting to take care of their own things. I don't feel like it should be hush hush. This is my trade, and I don't want to let out any of my secrets, because, like you said, like it's going to be insane when all of these 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds who are servicing machines right now start retiring, and there's not as many younger people interested in that sort of job.
Yeah. But I mean, if someone was looking for work, someone younger, it's not a bad thing to get into, is it?
No.
It's a good idea. Because I think that there is going to be a lot of work coming your way.
Yes. And it's the kind of thing you can do in your basement or your garage, right? You don't even have to, right?
You could do it around childcare, other caring commitments.
Yeah, I know that one of the most popular technician in town, I think, from the vibe I'm getting, everyone gets their stuff serviced by him.
What? Why not you?
Well, because I'm still very new. They're just hearing about me. Don't worry, I'm busy. I don't have a problem with being busy because there's lots of work.
I'm feeling very defensive for you here.
But he goes and he picks up machines from the local sewing stores that don't have technicians themselves.
So if you've got a car...
If you've got a car and a garage and you've got, and it doesn't even take very expensive tools to get started, right? Like you don't need a drill press or anything like that. Like the most expensive thing you need is a scissor sharpener, which is a little specialized and kind of expensive, but you don't have to do that. Probably the air compressor.
Oh, what does that do?
Well, when we have all of the covers off, then we can blow all the lint out of the crazy little spaces.
Right.
But because when you're at home, your covers are on, you're just trapping the lint further in the machine. Once all those covers have been taken off, blowing out all the lint is more helpful.
Give it a proper... Nice.
Yeah. From everywhere, every little joint in there. But yeah, otherwise it's like regular screwdrivers, a vice grip, right? Like it's not, they're just little basic tools that you would probably have at home anyway.
Okay, cool. This is exciting. I like the idea of a whole kind of, I don't know what to say, breed of new, new independent. I like the idea that it's like a kind of army of women, who are looking to find work for themselves that they can do in a way that is, fits around their other commitments and they can be their own boss. And I love this.
So, I mean, if you're mechanically minded and you're interested in that sort of thing, I don't think it hurts to go to your local repair technician and say, hey, do you need assistance? Can I volunteer once in a while?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're just volunteering to learn, or if they want to pay you, that's up to them. But
yeah.
I mean, if you're volunteering your time, most people are quite happy to have free labor.
Yeah.
And teach you a thing or two in exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I started by stripping the dead machines for their parts. And so when I first got into it, I started taking them apart because we can reuse those parts in machines that are still working that need a part. And then you kind of get how they're put together without having to worry about putting them back together.
Very cool.
So even that might be helpful to someone.
Absolutely. Speaking of parts, how easy are parts to get hold of? Like, is that something that is becoming more and more difficult, or is it still pretty easy? Or are there better machines to get in terms of being able to get parts going forward?
It depends. Again, it depends on the machine. Almost every machine has its Achilles heel. For example, there's the Bernina 830, which is a very prominent machine from the 70s.
Right.
60s, 70s. It pretty much won't die unless you don't get your motor checked once in a while.
Okay.
Because the thing that kills those is the motor. You can't get the motor.
Hang on, I'm on my laptop now. Bernina what?
Bernina 830 record.
Oh, it's beauty. It's a beauty.
Yes. They're lovely machines.
Oh, I
have one for sale if anyone wants it.
I do. 300 quid, 400 quid, 250 quid, 360 quid, 750 quid.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of parts they have with them, too. Like, if they're completely without goods. The thing is, you can still get feet for them and stuff.
Can you?
Yeah, if you want an old one, you can still get a lot of the accessories and stuff for them.
Cool.
Which is really nice. But it is the motor that tends to kill them. However, if you get the motor brushes, which is like the little carbons that are inside the motor,
right,
they wear down over time. And if they wear down all the way, you will destroy the motor.
Right.
But if you get them checked so that you can replace those carbons before they run out completely, then the motor will keep going, and then you're usually fine.
Brilliant. And you've got an indestructible machine.
The only other thing that goes on them is the cam gear in the top, and that you can get, and it's pretty easy to replace. So
cool.
So that one is one, like, they're everywhere. They're easy to get. You can still get all the accessories. You can still get pretty much all the parts as long as you keep it maintained. It will last for flippin' ever. The other one that's really good is the FAF 1222.
Right.
I don't think those are as easy to come by because people hold on to them and they're not quite as prolific as the Bernina 830. Same general era. They have the dual feed though. I think it was the first machine to have the dual feed.
What do you mean the dual feed?
You know, like a walking foot?
Oh, yeah, cool.
Okay, except it's built into the machine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Is that particularly good for quilting?
Yeah, for anything with layers, really. Sometimes stretchy fabric can benefit from the dual feed as well. Yeah, I know you're more clothing, so
Yeah.
probably something that you don't really see as often, but...
Oh no, I do actually use my walking foot quite a lot actually. I find it super useful I've been making some little like toiletry bags out of this kind of like laminated vinyl stuff and that's been really useful. Or just anything that's given me a bit of hassle really, like, or anything you have to make doing something quilted. It just makes it much easier. So I've been using it more and more often recently.
Yeah, so that's a really handy feature for an old machine that probably will never die. And the one thing that would go on those is the power switch.
Right.
Which we could get around by putting either just wiring it on all the time and you just unplug it to turn it off.
Yeah.
And then it's fine. You can still use it. But they just came out with a knockoff replacement for that. So we can replace those again. And I'm very excited.
So actually some parts are becoming easier to get hold of.
Yeah. I mean, when they see a need for enough of them, they will have knockoff versions that you can get.
Cool. Yeah. Where are you sourcing parts? Are you able to get them from Canada or do you have to go further afield? Or do you have a stash?
Well, I do have a stash because there's always dead machines you can rob and stuff like that. For some of the more difficult stuff to get or the stuff that's not available anymore, sometimes you can steal from a dead machine that's otherwise not fixable.
So do you have a bit of a sewing machine graveyard?
Yes. But I do get most of my parts come from distributors, and there is multiple warehouses in Canada that we get them from. So I don't know if the company's based in Canada, but we have warehouses in Canada.
Right. Awesome. So I want to hear more about your business. Can you tell us more about your shop and like how it came to be?
Okay, so let's go back to when I started quilting, and I was very, very, very excited about the idea of taking scraps of fabric and turning it into something beautiful and functional.
Yeah.
That is not the industry of quilting at all.
No.
Most of the time, quilting is pushing fabric and pushing patterns.
And it's all the matching, isn't it? It's like the matching solids that go with this range.
Yeah. A lot of people just buy fabric lines so that everything is already coordinated. They don't really have to think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? and they often just buy too much because they're like, well, maybe I want to make it bigger. Maybe I want to make a matching pillow, and then they never do.
Yeah.
And then they're on to the next project, and then their stashes grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
And they're like, oh, do you know what? It's just easier to get some more than to figure out what I've got and how I can use it.
Yeah, and quite often they'll go into a store and they'll see fabric that's pretty, and they're like, oh, it's pretty, I want to buy this, so I'll get half a meter. Then they're like, well, I don't know what to do with this because half a meter isn't enough for anything I want to do.
Yeah.
And you can't get any more, so I can't just go buy more of it now, right? So then it just sits there. I have seen multiple times where older quilters pass away and their husbands or children come in and they're like, where do I take all this?
Right.
Like, what do I do with it?
So that was happening at the previous shops that you were working at. People would come in and be like, I've got all this fabric, help.
And I'm just like, and a lot of it is just perfectly unused fabric that they bought and just never got to. And it's been sitting in bins or in boxes or on shelves or whatever. And most of it's in perfect condition as when they got it. And so I was like, there's so many people buying new fabric and so much fabric just sitting in closets not getting used. Let's try to find a solution for just goes people who are buying new fabric, buy the stuff from people's closets. But of course, they're not going to go to their house. So I tried to provide a place for people to take that. Then it also reduces the price of the stuff because, of course, it's secondhand. And fabric's getting so expensive.
So that you saw these people come into the shop that you worked at previously, you're like, there's a lot of fabric out there. At what point were you like, I could make a shop and be the middleman?
Well, it was definitely like a long transition, I would say, because we would get machines dropped off and sometimes they weren't functional and they would come with a bunch of the accessories, right?
Yeah.
And I would be like, well, we have these accessories. Why don't we sell them? And they were like, no, we only sell new stuff. And I'm like, but we're selling the same thing. And I really wanted to just be able to take that thing that we found in the back and like put it on the same hook as the thing that we were selling new.
Yeah.
And just be like, but if you buy this one, it's half price, right? Like, but no, I wasn't allowed to do that. So
this is so interesting.
We were allowed to do that for stuff that was no longer available. So if
Okay.
we had it and it was no longer available to order new, then it was like, yes, we have a solution for you. Here it is. But yeah, we weren't allowed to just put the used stuff out on the floor. It just over and over, I was like, but there's so much out there already and people are buying the same thing new when there's stuff that's been previously purchased that is still perfectly functional. Why can't they buy it? Like, why can't that just go to the person who needs it?
Sure.
And so, but then you need somewhere for that transition to happen, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously going to a thrift store can be fun and you can sift through all the stuff. But having a thrift store, for lack of a better word, that is catered to your niche.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are the chances that you rock on up to a thrift store and you've got exactly the thing that you need for your kind of niche hobby?
Right. So if everything that you would need as a sewist is all in one place, you're much more likely to find something that's going to work for you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So were you still in Alberta at the time? At what point did you go back to Victoria or that area?
Okay, so since I moved to Edmonton, my sister, who's still here on Vancouver Island, has had a couple kids. So, I mean, I always didn't feel like Edmonton was really home. Like, I always wanted to go back. I met my now husband there, so I needed to go and find him and bring him back with me.
Come on.
But my sister had a couple kids, so I felt like I was sort of missing out on everything. And I was like, I just want to go home. I want to go home. And I love my job. I love repairing the machines. I love being around all the quilters. But I did want to see things done differently, and I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And so I did make arrangements ahead of time, knowing that I was going to be going back, sort of networking with the local sewing groups and guilds and businesses in the area, and coordinating the Bernina dealership ahead of time so that I knew that I could continue, because I just wanted a machine to sell that I could really stand behind, right? Because seeing what machines are on the inside, I wanted to make sure the ones I sold were ones that I could fix and could be proud to sell someone. So
you knew that when you moved back, you would be opening a shop?
Yeah. I had originally tried to coordinate with some local businesses that I was like, hey, do you think maybe you could fit me in somehow? And it's kind of a funny story. I kind of just talked to the wrong person at the wrong time.
Right.
Because now they're like, dang it, we could have been the thing together. But yeah, we've actually been a very good, like, helping each other out and like swapping products, and because they're more clothing focused and I'm more quilting focused. So like they've exchanged some of their dead stock to me for some of my clothing stuff that they can use in their classes and stuff. And we've done trades and tried to help each other out that way.
Oh, nice. What business is that?
The Make House. And they're actually a co-op, which is fun. And the reason that I was particularly interested in them, because they are worker owned, and I really like that concept.
Yeah, I love the idea as well. Like you're in it together as well. Like you've got the same goal. Like you don't have to treat each other like competition.
Yeah, the response here in Victoria in that way is much better than it was in Edmonton. Edmonton was very much every man for himself, and don't suggest another sewing store to somebody that might be able to help them, like, because that takes business away from us. Whereas here it's like, welcome, yay, another sewing store. How can we help? Can we
Aw.
collaborate in some way? Like, it was just a very different vibe.
Yeah. Brilliant. But first of all, anyway, like starting a shop, that is super bold in and of itself, no? Like, I mean, obviously you've worked in quilting related shops, so it's not like, but like starting one up, that's a whole thing, no?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a fairly fortunate situation that it was viable. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I bet.
But I tend to keep myself busy anyway, so I might as well
Start a business.
Yeah, I might as well.
Brilliant. So how long has the Green Thimble been going now?
It's been open for 3 months now.
Oh, it's a baby. Congratulations.
Just a baby. Yeah.
So what products do you sell? Like how much of it's pre-owned, and the pre-owned stuff, how do you source it?
Almost all of our stuff is donated just from the general public.
Nice.
They come in with like a bag or 8 of fabric and other notions and stuff. There's sometimes we get things that like never really occurred to me. Like we got teddy bear joints.
Oh.
Was the most recent example. I was like, that's interesting. And I guess, yeah, that would be part of sewing. If you're making a teddy bear or a whatever animal with like moving joints,
Yeah.
you would need that part. So I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. That's something that you're probably not going to find in your average sewing store.
Absolutely.
So yeah, most of our stuff is donated just from the general public. We have had a few ex-sewing businesses, designers or tailors and those sort of things who have retired or otherwise stopped their business.
Yeah.
And have brought us like bolts and bolts of fabric.
Wow.
So we have new items too, like the staples, like your thread and your needles and scissors and rulers and stuff. But we try to kind of keep that to the basics because we do end up getting a lot of donated stuff in those regards as well. We have so much recirculated thread. Yeah, so we sell the recirculated thread at 50 cents a spool and up. But most of them are just 50 cents. Grab your spools. The metallics are $1, right? And we have the little pieces of fabric we've put into a grab bag wall. So we have like this big shelving unit full of bins, and the bins are like semi-organized. Like all the quilting cotton is organized into different colors. And then we've got like, these are sort of upholstery fabrics and these are jerseys and right. And you just fill a bag for $5.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, the quilters love it. The like slow stitchers love it. Anyone who does like little bags, that sort of thing, they can come in and just like pack a bag full of stuff that they like, and it kind of keeps that little stuff moving a little bit better. I've had people stick around for like 2 hours just sorting through all the things and like filling their bags. And
That would be me. That would be me. I'm like,
Yeah.
no stone left unturned.
yeah, they just have fun, and I enjoy seeing them having fun.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, like, who typically are your customers? Like, what kind of crafts are they into? Have you are you able to give a kind of like generalized demographic? Like, who comes into your shop?
We are getting a bit of a younger crowd generally. The Berninas are a little bit more of an expensive brand, but we also have Juki and Burnett. So that brings the new machines a little bit of a lower threshold for the new machines there.
Yeah.
But we also have the recirculated machines. But the sort of green aspect to it is bringing in a lot of the younger crowd.
Nice. I love this.
And so we're sort of, I think we're getting seen as the like young hip sewing store.
Cool. So in terms of your working life, like currently, how much of your time are you spending repairing and servicing sewing machines compared to the other tasks in your shop?
Well, I do have one employee. I'm sort of slowly getting her to do a lot more of the admin stuff.
Good plan.
So, yeah. She's doing all the social media. She's doing most of the sorting. But we do actually have volunteers coming to sort as well. They're just come in to feel all the fabric, and I'll pay them in fabric. Like they're like, and I want to take this one home. And I'm like, by all means, here you go. Like, thank you for your time.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do get some assistance from the very generous people who are coming to donate their time to sort through fabric.
Nice, because that sounds like it's something of a community as well.
Yeah, and that's sort of something I wanted to foster. But yeah, I do spend probably 3/4 of my day in the back room working on machines.
Is that how you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could spend 100% of my day back there, but I have other duties, I guess.
Brilliant. So you've got an online shop, haven't you?
So the more stuff we've gotten in, the less of it we've been able to get online. So there's obviously more stuff in the store.
That's a real bottleneck, isn't it, when you've got to take photos and stuff?
Yeah. So it does take more time and energy to put stuff online than it does. So pretty much any of our regular stock is online, any of this, like the new stuff. So you're going to find that there. All the machines are online, and a lot of the fabric that's like we've got the bolts of and stuff, that stuff gets online.
Yeah.
But all the fabric that you see on there is all recirculated stuff. And I've got it sorted so that if you want just recirculated stuff, you can actually go to the recirculated section of the website.
Cool.
And just find the recirculated items.
So what's your website?
Thegreenthimble.ca.
Brilliant. And people can also find you on Instagram and presumably in real life.
And in real life, yes. Our Instagram is also thegreenthimble.ca. I think there is another green thimble out there, so I just wanted that .ca to make sure you're the one in Canada.
Brilliant. And where can people find you if they happen to be in the locale?
Our address is 3508 Quadra Street, Victoria. There is a 3508 Quadra Street in Vancouver. That's not us.
That's not the one. You've gone wrong there.
That's not the one. Victoria.
Oh, I'm super happy for you. And thank you so much for this time. It's been so interesting. And thank you for being so generous with your knowledge as well and your very awesome tips. I've got to go and oil my machine now.
I do want to see if there's lots of fuzz in there.
Okay, I promise.
Take your bobbin case out.
I promise.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!